Put your seatbelts on and get ready for the ride. We're the freaking New York Jets, so we're built for this shit.
Hello and welcome to another episode of In the Trenches with Gang Green. I'm your host, Bubbs. Today is Monday, July 28th. Hopefully everybody's having a good day so far today. This is episode 583 of the In the Trenches with Gang Green podcast. I thank you, as always, for joining me. For those tuning in on YouTube, make sure to please like and subscribe. Of course, appreciate all of those tuning in on all the different audio podcast platforms. And today we are recapping day number 5 of New York Jets training camp. And it was the first day with the pads on, and it led to a very intense practice. You got the full taste of the Aaron Glenn padded practices out there today at One Jets Drive in Florham Park. As we always do here on the episode, we're going to break down all of my biggest takeaways from today's practice, starting, of course, with what happened on the field. And then, as always, later on in the episode, we'll take a look at some comments, some sounds, some quotes from Glenn. Braylon Allen spoke to the media, Xavier Gipson, Tyler Johnson, and Byron Cowart as well. We'll take a look at that later on to close out today's episode. Apologies for a little bit of a later upload today, but still wanted to get this out, of course, for all of you as we continue our training camp coverage. What a practice it was today for the New York Jets. And I'm going to start and do this a little differently than how we normally do. We'll get to Justin Fields, right? He went out and returned fully in team drills. Obviously, Saturday did some 7-on-7 work. Yesterday with the day off, was back out today, fully padded, fully participating. Great news there. Another example, another reminder of the New York Jets finally being on the right side of injury luck, of course, for once here, with the Justin Fields toe injury only sidelining him really for one day because he did some 7-on-7 on Saturday. But today the pads came on, and today across the league, but for the Jets specifically, things really start to ramp up now. First couple days, you kind of ease into it, no pads. Tough to really gather full takeaways. But once the pads come on, you get a better understanding of what the roster looks like, different roster battles, all these different things. And today we also got what felt like the first true Aaron Glenn effect on this New York Jets team. The New York Jets today, on Monday, July 28, 2025, wrapped up probably what was, not probably, it was their most physical practice, their most action-packed, competitive physicality, all of those different words, practice in a very, very long time. This had an old school feel to it. This had a old school Bill Parcells feel to it, just an old school football feel to it, going back to the two-a-days in the summer, in the heat, just going after each other, physicality, competing, one-on-one drills. A lot to take away from this standpoint. And Aaron Glenn has came in here and has talked about becoming a physical football team, becoming nasty, becoming competitive, all of those different things, which fits perfectly into what this New York Jets team needs. They were a soft team under Robert Saleh, losing the battle in the trenches. And so many Robert Saleh practices you would go to and watch, and you saw none of what we saw today from Aaron Glenn in the 4 training camps that we saw with Robert Saleh. The New York Jets started today one-on-one tackling drill, and then they did one-on-one O-line, D-line reps. Both two things that we never saw Robert Saleh do. Today was the first time you really kind of felt the shift from the country club environment that Robert Saleh had here and what was happening here to the different mindset and the mindset of physicality, making this team a physical, nasty, competitive football team with the pads officially coming on. Right? I talked about when I was in attendance, the first couple takeaways that I saw with Glenn. A lot more coaching, much little wasted time in these practices. There is a reason behind everything. There is everything that they do, there's a purpose. They're doing it with a purpose. You didn't feel that under Saleh. And today was the next step. So I want to break down some of these tackling drills and some of these one-on-one offensive line, defensive line drills. We saw the tackling drill. I talked about it on Saturday when I was there. That was the first time that Glenn ran it. Today, it got to another level because pads were on. So let's go through some of the breakdowns. Then, of course, we'll kind of flip back over to Fields, go through the positions, then get to some sound later on. Sauce started it off. Garrett Wilson, he wrapped him up. Sauce won the battle on Saturday, won the battle again today. And that's important for Sauce. And again, I want to preface all this. I'm not saying that the Jets now doing these tackling drills and having these physical, heavy workload type of practices means they're going to win 12 games and Aaron Glenn's the greatest coach of all time. No, but it is finally a sign of things are changing a bit. And Glenn is so far a man of his word. He talked about all this, and we're seeing all of this right now. Not once did you see this with Robert Saleh. And back to the Sauce point, this is a player who had struggles tackling last year. And he goes out this offseason, gets the big contract, of course. Glenn, a former corner. He needs to improve his tackling. Sauce does. This entire team, Sauce being one of them. Back-to-back drills here, Saturday and today. Wrapped up Garrett Wilson, won the battle against Garrett Wilson. That's a good thing. That's what you want to see. Garrett Wilson then juked out Jalen Simpson. Quincy Williams had a stop against Brees. Tyler Johnson made Jamarcus Weston miss. Mason Taylor powered through, got through Isaiah Oliver and won his rep. Andre Sisco, who has had a very strong camp. We'll talk about him a little bit more when we get to the secondary later on. He stopped Braylon Allen, which is not easy to do. He did it. Jarius Monroe, under the radar roster bubble guy, also had a stop against Braylon Allen. So 2 impressive one-on-one reps there for both of those players, especially the Andre Sisco, because this is a guy that comes in and playing a big role. And early signs are he's been impressive. And that's big. Marcelino McCrary-Ball also had a win against Malachi Corley. He had a very big hit on Malachi Corley. Aaron Smith also had a big hit on Malachi Corley. So 2 depth linebackers there stepping up in these drills, making some plays. Tanner McAllister forced a fumble against Isaiah Davis. And Quantez Stiggers also had a forced fumble against Arian Smith, the rookie wide receiver, who is interesting to watch in these drills because this is a player, of course, not really known for his physicality, needs to work on that. And somebody just in general from the receiver spot actually made a play today that we'll get to, but somebody in general, pads come on, very interesting to watch. With no pads, Arian Smith can beat you with his speed, no doubt. But when the pads come on, field shrinks a bit, route running becomes more important, hands, physicality, all that stuff become more important. His evaluation will get even more interesting from here on out. So those are some of the tackling drills. And it's a lot of fun to see these battles, like Sauce against Garrett, Quincy against Brees, right? Andre Sisco, Braylon Allen, whoever Mason Taylor's going against. Heck, even Malachi Corley trying to fight his way onto this roster in just year number 2. A lot of good takeaways. Then you had the O-line, D-line drills, so just pure trench warfare here. Quinnen Williams crushed Cole Laval and then was able to get around John Simpson, so he won those reps. Olu, who I've talked about, I think on Saturday, maybe even Friday, being there those 2 days, Olu was very good and was very good against Michael Clemens. He's had him locked up. In these O-line, D-line drills, he had very good reps against Michael Clemens, winning them all. So good start there for Olu. Chuck Okorafor also had a nice rep against Eric Watts. Xavier Newman won a physical rep against Byron Cowart, who actually probably had one of his best days of training camp so far. The front runner, it feels, for that DT2 spot next to Quinnen Williams. Josh Myers won his rep against Rashad Weaver. Leonard Taylor beat Cole Laval, another guy to keep an eye on in that defensive line room. And then Derek Nottie beat Gus Hartwig, who ended up leaving practice with an injury. So a couple of those guys, Leonard Taylor, Derek Nottie. Byron Cowart didn't win his rep, but had a good day at practice. We'll get to some highlights from him here in a second. So a couple of those interior defensive line guys, of course, headlined by one of the faces of this team, Quinnen Williams, winning their reps. So just, it was awesome to see that. It really was. That physicality, the competition, something Glenn has preached. And they did just that today. Day one in pads, Glenn wasted no time. So now on to some of the other highlights. We'll go through some of the position groups. Justin Fields, of course, back out on the field today. Good to see that. Foley back with the team drills, both 7-on-7 and, of course, 11-on-11 as well. Some of the highlights, some of the completions for Fields today. Total went 6 of 7 in 11-on-11 drills. One of his big plays today was to Mason Taylor across the middle for about 20 to 30 yards. So that connection continues to be impressive. Mason Taylor as a whole, even in the 2 practices that Justin Fields was not there, and when he was with Tyrod Taylor, looked good. It has been a very strong summer so far through 5 practices for the rookie. You want to continue to see him build on this. Of course, plays a big role for this offense coming up this season. Fields is also able to get the ball to Josh Reynolds rolling out. Another receiver, another weapon that he's looked his way a lot. Tyrod as well. He had the highlight play on Saturday on the deep ball against Sauce, which he hauled in. More 11-on-11 drills. Started off, was pressured, got a quick pass off to Garrett. Then he had a dump off to Braylon Allen, which we saw Braylon Allen on Saturday take a dump off almost all the way to the house. Got stopped about the 5-ish yard line, but it was like 50 yards after the catch. Brees then on a short pass. So total 6 of 7, spreading the ball around, tight ends, running backs, Josh Reynolds, of course, the connection with Garrett, and then some highlights in 7-on-7. Big play of 7-on-7 was to Garrett, about 20 to 30 yards down the sideline, and Garrett beat Brandon Stevens. I feel like every one of these Justin Fields to Garrett Wilson highlights or plays that stick out from practice have all been against Brandon Stevens. So he's definitely had his way there. Stevens has won some battles. But look, when you go up against Garrett Wilson, and where Brandon Stevens is already, just as a polarizing free agent signing, he's definitely going to catch your eye when he continues to pop up on the opposite ends of these receptions. Jeremy Ruckert, Isaiah Davis, Mason Taylor also all had receptions during the 7-on-7 drills. Tyrod's big play was to Tyler Johnson. Nice ball on 11-on-11. Good yak. Nice play from those two. So those are the quarterbacks. As for the running backs today, Braylon Allen had a couple really nice runs. We talked about, of course, some of the receiving game, but some really nice runs today. And that's what you want to see out of Braylon Allen. This was a guy who looked really good in all 4 of the first 4 practices this training camp. And he's a guy that you want to continue to see with the pads on produce. And you can really evaluate with the pads on much better, both O-line, D-line, plus the run game. And you saw that today with Braylon Allen. Just his ability, the vision to see the hole, then hit the hole hard and hit another level, hit another gear, is so impressive. And as each day goes by, Braylon Allen, I feel like we're in the middle of a summer of Braylon Allen in a way. He is just having a massive, massive training camp. And really shows no signs of slowing down right now, because this is a guy who, if used properly, can be a really, really, really big number 2 behind Breece Hall this season. Breece Hall, some of his best runs today also came behind Olu and John Simpson. And I talked about it on Saturday. One of the plays that stuck out to me from a run game perspective when I was in attendance was Breece's run where he was rolling out. It was an outside run to the left side. Olu was lead blocking, had a really nice block, and Breece took it and cut up field and got a nice chunk of yards off of it. A little tough to tell exactly how far it went, again, because there was no pads. But that left side run blocking has been strong. And that's not only a positive from the Breece Braylon perspective, but also from an Olu perspective. We all know what he can do, of course, as a pass blocker. Player preview I had on him up this morning. Check that out if you haven't done so already. His pass blocking, of course, is a strength. The next step for him is improving his run blocking. And if he can do that, that's where you're looking at a legitimate cornerstone left tackle of the future. And, of course, we all know what John Simpson was able to do last year. You hope he can continue that this season as he kind of breaks out here with the New York Jets. Some of the wide receiver highlights, right? Garrett, Fields, that connection every day. You're seeing positives from those two. All good stuff. Tyler Johnson continues to emerge. He continues to be a guy here. In some ways, Tyler Johnson, and I haven't really said this, but we all kind of just assume the 1, 2, 3 for the Jets is Garrett, Reynolds, which that's going to be the 1-2. But there's a good chance here Lazard gets replaced by Tyler Johnson potentially as that wide receiver 3. There's a real chance that Tyler Johnson might be the wide receiver 3 for this team. It's definitely possible. And I would even throw Arian Smith in that equation as well. The Jets are really high on Arian Smith. There's a chance he emerges in a bigger role than maybe some of us expect. Lazard's kind of had a quiet camp and not very exciting player anyway. You get one of these other guys that emerges, Tyler Johnson being one of them, he might play a lot bigger of a role than some of us think. Continue to keep an eye on him. Arian Smith's big play today came in 7-on-7. He had a nice grab from Adrian Martinez, used his speed to get open downfield. We all know that, the speed continues to be the eye catcher from him, but padded practices continuing to evaluate Arian Smith will get real interesting now from the physicality, route running, that standpoint. Tight ends, Mason Taylor continues to shine, right? We mentioned that. Jeremy Ruckert had a false start today, got taken out. Another sign of times changing. We have refs. What a thought. Have refs at football practice. Had them, all last week. Have them there again today. Was taken out immediately from the false start. And that's what you need to do if you're Aaron Glenn and this coaching staff. Hold these players accountable. Understand what they did wrong. Can't have it happen. The false starts, especially. The delay of games. The offsides. The dumb after the play penalties. All of those are just so unacceptable, and the Jets have done way too much of that. So, not throwing Ruckert under the bus, but more so, it shows this coaching staff, they're handling it much better than the previous staff did, or attempting to handle it much better. Previous staff didn't even try to stop the penalties. As for the defensive side of the football, Rashad Weaver and Zaire Barnes combined for a sack against Tyrod. Byron Cowart had a PBU against Justin Fields at the line of scrimmage. And Peyton Page is, doubt he makes the roster, but a very underrated defensive tackle right now that has just really simply dominated the last 2 practices. I mentioned him on Saturday as a player that popped out. He had a couple pressures, had a sack, had a couple run stops. He was all over the place on Saturday. And again today, a couple nice plays, pressures, run stops. Like, he's been involved. So, and doubt he makes the roster, but a good training camp certainly doesn't help your case. So, back-to-back practices now as a guy who's emerging. As for the linebackers, Quincy Williams had a big hit against Breece. He's put together a really nice summer so far. And Marcelino McCrary Ball is an interesting one to keep an eye on. Out of the depth roster bubble linebackers, he has by far been the strongest so far. He had a big hit today against Isaiah Davis, and then there was another play where he had a tackle for loss against Isaiah Davis. And even you've seen him in the 2 practices I've been at, brings a lot of energy, flies around. You could tell he's competing. You could tell he's trying to fight and get a spot on this 53-man roster. Just the guy that so far has been giving a lot so far in camp and has made a couple nice plays to his credit. In terms of the secondary, one of the biggest performers today was Malachi Moore, who had a big hit against Xavier Gipson and then followed that up with a nice pass breakup against Malachi Corley. Glenn raved about Malachi Moore after practice. I really like the Malachi Moore pick. I know you guys obviously know that. I know a lot of Jet fans are definitely on board with the Malachi Moore pick in day number 3 in the 4th round. This was a guy that was a multi-year starter, captain at Alabama, a top school, top conference, a good leader, very smart, and just the way he plays the game fits very similar to what you would want or what this coaching staff would want out of a player. A smart player, a dependable player. He's physical. He's got a nice ability to get downhill and clog running lanes. And today as well, some of the coverage ability. He's a thumper, man. He can lay the hit in the secondary. He's a big hitting safety. You saw that at Alabama. You saw that today. There's a real chance he could start over Tony Adams. Forget during the season, week 1. There's a real chance there. Tony Adams, I actually think, has done some nice things this camp at times. Malachi Moore has done as well. But Malachi Moore is a really intriguing, definitely out of the day 3 picks, the one you're most excited about, and the one that probably will play the biggest role early on if he wins the job. And we already talked about Andre Sisco. He continues to have a really strong camp, whether it was the one-on-one reps today. He had the interception the other day at practice. He's had a couple nice pass breakups. He's just been a noticeable player in 11-on-11s. Been around the football. He's had a couple nice plays running, run stop wise. Done a lot of good things. He's been impressive. And early on, it seems like the coaching staff has been able to get a good amount out of him, which is really positive because this is a player, of course, who's coming off of a rough year, but it felt like it was more of a product of what was happening around him as opposed to himself, right? Jacksonville was a disaster. So that's mainly what took place on the field. Couple quick notes here. Special teams wise, Harrison Mevis went 3 for 3 today. Caden Davis went 2 for 3. He had a 38-yard miss. In total, Mevis went 9 of 10. Caden Davis went 9 of 10 on Saturday. So that means over the last 2 practices, Mevis is 12 of 13 and Davis is 11 of 13. And the New York Jets tried out a former Jet today. Nick Folk was out at one Jets drive earlier this afternoon. They tried him out. He, of course, spent 7 seasons with the Jets. Last time they made the playoffs, he was the kicker 2010 to 2016, 17 seasons in the NFL. Crazy hard to believe that it's already been so long since he's been on the Jets. But 17 seasons in the NFL. He'll be entering his 18th year this year. He is 40 years old. He'll be 41 in November. Has spent the last 2 seasons with the Titans and has done very well. Last year had a 95.5% field goal percentage. His longest kick was 56 yards. That 95.5% was 21 of 22. Then in 2023, he went 29 of 30. Which was 96.7%. So this is a guy here over the last 2 years has been over 90%, which was top 5 in the NFL this year. And you look at just going back the last couple of years, dating back to 2020, 4 of the last 5 years, he's been over 90% field goal percentage-wise. Was 92% in 2020, 92% in 2021, and I just mentioned what he did the last 2 years. So he is a player that even as he's gotten older has continued to be consistent and has continued to be reliable. And we talked about this kicking competition. I talked about this on Saturday. I think there's a really good chance the Jets punter and kicker is not on this roster. And Nick Folk being brought in would heat this competition up a little bit, bring a much-needed veteran into that room, somebody with a track record, somebody that's reliable. There's always questions with older kickers, right? Greg Zuerlein was getting up there. He had a great year, then fell off a cliff. Could Nick Folk be that? Sure. But I'd rather him go out there and his track record, and if he goes out and does sign and has a good preseason, then Harrison Mevis and Caden Davis, who neither have really impressed much. And from a punting standpoint, Austin McNamara is the only rostered punter right now because Kai Kroger got released, which I'm not surprised about. And I don't want to completely crush Kai Kroger, but he was awful on Friday. And I talked about that in my recap episode. He was terrible. There was some really, really bad wobbly ducks that came off of his foot. McNamara didn't look that great either, but he was definitely better than Kroger. And according to reports today, McNamara had a pretty strong day. So lots going on from a special teams perspective there. Players returning punts today were Gibson, Pritchett, and Cisco. Gibson and Cisco struggled. Something to note for Xavier Gibson. I don't really buy much stock into Cisco having some struggles. He had a drop on Friday, too. I talked about that when Aaron Glenn went up to him and started immediately talking to him after that happened. Cisco's not going to return punts for this team. But Gibson, Pritchett, this is important for Gibson. He had a drop on Friday. He had a drop today. Not what you want to see, because Pritchett, who has shown some receiving upside, if he beats Gibson from a special teams perspective, he's probably making this roster over him. So something to note there. By the way, Caden Davis's miss was from 30 yards. I think I might have mentioned that. But if not, that was the exact kick. All right, let's get to some sound here before we close off today's episode. Aaron Glenn, we'll start with him, met the media again today, talked about this was kind of on the topic of the tackling and building an identity for this New York Jets team.
Well, I think you try to create an identity of your team, and you start to figure out like who's going to be a part of that identity, and that's what the evaluation process is. Man, we're evaluating in the meeting room, we're evaluating on the field, and again, they all know that that's a part of who we're going to be. And the good thing is, man, they look forward to it.
So that was Glenn on the identity, how it's being built so far. And he's talked about that a lot. And the players have actually backed him up on that. Just how these guys are really embracing this new coaching staff. And he mentioned there towards the end, looking forward to, these practices, these different drills they've been doing, the one-on-one tackling drills. These players have really liked it. They mentioned it. Some of them talked after practice on Saturday. A lot of them have just talked about, too, a lot of it's been really just completely dunking on the previous coaching staff. Coach Robert Saleh, without anybody saying his name, has caught a lot of strays over the last couple of days, and rightfully so. AVT, Brees, even Glenn in some aspects, talking about the penalties, talking about Will McDonald and how it's just coaching to get him to Bull Rushmore. There is a clear early buy-in right now. Will that last? Only time will tell. You got to win. But early on, it's positive. Glenn also spoke on Braylon Allen, and I thought had a really good answer overview on what he brings. Not only is he a good camp, but Braylon is a guy that fits what this team's looking for. Here is Glenn on the year 2 running back.
What do you see out of Braylon Allen? And obviously, kind of came in here to 2 pretty good running backs, and what does he bring, and how does he fit with Brees?
Well, besides Clem, he's the next guy I would like to look like, So, big, physical, tough. Man, he has a worksman mentality. He doesn't say much. He just wants to work. Really good teammate. Understands the situation that we're all in when it comes to how we're going to progress with this team. And he's not afraid to go play special teams. No matter what the situation is, even if he's a starter, he understands that he still wants his job on special teams. So I want a team of guys like that. And we have a team of guys like that. They're unselfish. They want to do whatever it is to win. And, like, I'm really proud of the way that he goes about his business, just like a lot of the guys that we have. And I can pick those guys out easy.
So that was Glenn on Braylon Allen, who has had an excellent summer so far and looks primed for a breakout season. Another quote I want to give on Glenn before I throw into this one more clip before we get to some players on Glenn and Cimini going at it again. That has been a hot battle since the minute he was hired, really. This was Glenn. I don't have the clip, but I have the quote on physical practices and the potential cause of injuries and really the negative effects of it potentially. He said, quote, "Injuries are a part of this game and there's no way to hide from it. Usually when you do try to hide from it, that's when they pop up. But the principles of this game will never change. The game is about running, blocking, and tackling. If you don't practice that, me as a head coach, how am I giving our guys a chance to win? The only way to get better at something is to rep it. I'm not saying we're going to tackle every practice, but we're going to put ourselves in position to do it, or we're going to do it. The guys knew that coming in. They bought into that. He is spot on. The game is about running, blocking, and tackling. And another thing he mentioned, usually when you do try to hide from it, that's when they pop up. That's kind of the definition of the Robert Saleh era. A lot of light practices, a lot of taking it slow, taking it easy so guys don't get hurt. And the Jets, while they were pretty healthy last year, minus a few major injuries, of course, Jermaine Johnson, but overall, they were pretty healthy. However, 2023, of course, they dealt with a ton of injuries. Even 2022, you had the Brees injury. They dealt with some big injuries there as well. They've been ravaged at times. And in many ways, they tried to avoid it. Even last year, of course, you had the whole, they hired the new sports science department. They made changes there. They really tried to avoid injuries, and yet they kept coming. So Glenn's point of going out there and playing football, that's might just be the better approach after all. One more clip. This was Glenn against Rich Cimini. This battle continues to be really funny anytime it happens.
Change your coaching style as a Bill Parcells disciple, as a tough coach for 2025. Some of the stuff Bill did 30, 40 years ago, yelling and screaming, maybe doesn't resonate the same in 2025 with the modern athlete. So how do you take all the good things of Bill and perhaps you can do things exactly like him?
Well, first off, I'm Aaron Glenn. I'm not Bill. So that really is answering your question.
But as far as the style of coaching in 2025?
I have my own style of coaching. Listen, I learned a lot from Bill, but Aaron Glenn's going to show up like on the field, on the grass, with the players every time.
But could you yell at players like you could 20 years ago?
My personality is going to show up on the field every time. Have you seen me do it?
One time.
My personality is going to show up on the field every time.
I really need the backstory to this. I know Cimini covered Glenn, of course, as a player. I don't know if it was something that happened then. I don't know if it's just a coincidence that it's his questions that get Glenn to kind of fight back a bit, but there has been probably 6 or 7 instances now where you get that type of answer from Glenn back to Cimini where they're kind of going back and forth. And since he took over, I mean, heck, even the first day when they asked about Parcells and he said, "I'm Aaron Glenn." I believe that was Cimini who asked that. That was day one, his introductory press conference when they were speaking to media after the big press conference itself. So, yeah, first 6 months here, it's been a battle between Aaron Glenn and Rich Cimini. And every time it happens, it's just funny. And most of the time, Glenn just puts Cimini in a body bag. And the media in general. He's gone into it a bit, I think, with Costello as well. Totally different than Robert Saleh, who, of course, tried to be everyone's friend. Couple other notes here, couple other quotes. Here was Braylon Allen on his mindset. He can play anywhere.
Well, I think last year I didn't have a choice, so I had to embrace it. And, I'm the type of guy that's going to do whatever's asked of me. I mean, if they wanted me to play linebacker, I would. If they wanted me to play fullback, I would. So, that's something I've always done. I've played pretty much every position on the field at some point. And I just love football. So, special teams, you just either got to block somebody or make a tackle. So, that's the essence of football and, what I'm all about.
Definitely something that has emerged is his role here on special teams, continued role on special teams for this Jets team. Glenn, of course, talked about it as well. He'll do whatever the team asks of him. Xavier Gipson thought this was kind of a funny clip I wanted to throw out here. Very high praise for Aaron Glenn.
Glenn get me fired up, man. I ain't gonna lie to you, bro. Especially he a Texas guy, so if you knew where he was coming from and you take any of his passion the wrong way, you probably be the problem, because like either he passionate about the game, you just gotta feel that energy, and man, I love that dude, man, for sure.
Lots of praise there from Gipson. We'll see if Gipson sticks around. Him, Pritchett, some of those battles going on special teams wise, only time will tell. Big preseason, the preseason games as well. From a kicking standpoint and punt return, all that stuff, we'll even tell a bigger story for his roster future, but definitely some high praise there. Tyler Johnson also spoke to the media. Of course, has had a strong camp so far and spoke on the wide receiver room and the mindset and the physicality that he feels they bring to the table.
I think in order for us to be the best that we can be, we have to be a very physical team, and in the receiver room, we're making sure that, that's a point of emphasis. We want to make sure that each Sunday that we go out there and whatever we put on tape, we're showing that we're the physical wide receiver group. So taking, like I mentioned, blocking a few times today, but that's where it starts. Receivers got to be able to block, got to be ready to block, and when that ball's in the air, you got to make the play.
Last part there that I think was really important, the blocking aspect. This is a Jets coaching staff that really values that. And I think that was a big reason for the Josh Reynolds acquisition. Very good blocker and a willing blocker. And the Jets are very, very focused on their wide receivers being good blockers. And all comes with that is, of course, the physicality aspect as well. Something to keep an eye on once this season begins. Final quote here from Byron Cowart, excuse me. Funny analogy for the D-line room. Feels it's the Avengers. Here was Cowart on his new room.
I feel like I'm in the Avengers right now. Like I got Will to my left. I got Quentin, Mike. It's a lot of guys around me. The guys, secondary, the linebackers behind me. So I'm just, you seen the new Superman movie?
I have not.
It's a new villain. He was trying to figure out his powers and what is he good at. So I said, that's what I'm trying to figure out. How can I help you guys? So, it's dope being around everybody, flying around, young guys.
Big piece potentially to that D-line room if he wins that defensive tackle 2 job next to Quinnen Williams. And he'll be playing alongside Will, Quinnen, Jermaine a lot this season if that's the case. So that'll do it. Another episode in the books. Appreciate you all, as always, for the support here on all of these episodes. Love covering training camp for all of you. Again, apologies for a little bit of the late episode. Will be the same case tomorrow and throughout on Thursday as well, but then we'll be back normally scheduled the rest of the way here, but still got this out for all of you. So appreciate it. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. What are your biggest takeaways from practice number 5 and any other Jets takes you got? Let me know down below. Appreciate you all as always. Until next time, JETS. Jets, Jets, Jets.